Hello and welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Explore our playlist for more captivating novels, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 21. The plot speeds up, Long Gui's call for help. Hey, Natsuki, what the hell did you do? How did I become a Shinigami? Looking at the deadly costume on his body and the huge sealed state on his back, even Kurosaki Ichigo, who has a steady personality, can't help but feel at a loss. Introduced by Arasawa Tatsuki, he knows that Shinigami can only be held by dead spirits. But I am still a living person. How can a living person become a Shinigami? You can't say that he is actually dead, right? Okay. Die. Kurosaki Ichigo's face turned pale instantly. Yes, Natsuki stabbed himself in the heart yesterday, maybe he is really dead. PFF'd haha. Ichigo, what's that expression on your face? Natsuki laughed, this guy definitely has the talent to learn how to change his face, that face really changes at will. Okay, I won't tease you either. Natsuki patted Ichigo's shoulder with an unclear face, and said directly. The knife I gave you in the heart yesterday was to inject my spiritual power into your body, and use this as a guide to promote the transformation of your spiritual power and help you obtain the power of Shinigami. In Soul Society, it is a felony for Shinigami to distribute the power of Shinigami to humans. But Natsuki is human, your Soul Society has a rule that humans cannot pass the power of Shinigami to humans. As for the source of Natsuki Shinigami's power, it was obtained by analyzing Rukia's spiritual power by himself, and it was not taught by Rukia on his own initiative. Seriously speaking, it cannot be blamed on Rukia. Certainly. If the Soul Society is playing tricks, that's another story. Damn it, Ichigo, you guys have the power of Shinigami, it's so enviable. Arasawa Tatsuki looked at Kurosaki Ichigo enviously. 4 people at the scene. All 3 have Shinigami powers. She was the only one left, a normal person would feel unbalanced. But Arasawa Tatsuki will not, she and Kurosaki Ichigo grew up as childhood sweethearts. Facing Kurosaki Ichigo becoming a Shinigami, she only has blessings in her heart. Of course, a little envy is still there. I'm sorry, Long Gui, you have too little spiritual power in your body, and I can't do anything about it. Looking at Long Gui's expression, Natsuki spread his hands apologetically, expressing that there was nothing he could do. But this is just an excuse, he can let Kurosaki Ichigo have the power of Shinigami, because the other party has the power of Shinigami in his body. Arasawa Tatsuki is normal human. Naturally, it is impossible to obtain the power of Shinigami in this way. Hearing this, Arasawa Tatsuki didn't say anything, but a look of disappointment inevitably appeared on his face. Amazing, is this the power of Shinigami? On the side, Kurosaki Ichigo was completely unaware of Arasawa Tatsuki's abnormality, who was immersed in the power of Shinigami. Natsuki was watching everything. There is a meaningful light in the eyes. Everything yesterday was so coincidental that even Arasawa Tatsuki could see something was wrong. How could he, a time traveler who knew the plot, not see it? Especially the scene last night that was different from the plot. What was supposed to be an attack by one ghost turned into an attack by 2 ghosts. If no one intervened, who would believe it? Urahara Kazuki. I wanted to get along with you like Ichigo in the plot. Single quote. But you plot against me again and again, you really think I don't know anything, don't you? Single quote. Suddenly, Natsuki's face was a little cold. He never said he was a good man. Since you dare to plot against me, I'm sorry, but I'll take a hand in your plan, isn't that too much? Since Ichigo became Shinigami. The plot of the Shinigami world is back on track. The only difference is that Ichigo and Longui formed a team to purify Shu together. In this regard, Natsuki happily pushed all the tasks of eliminating Shu to Ichigo, and he practiced sword meditation in the kendo department every day, trying to master Shikai. During this time, the void transformed by Inoue Orihime Big Brother was successfully purified. The bat Shu in the parrot incident was also sent to hell with the efforts of the 2. The strength of the 2 steadily improved in battle after battle, until a phone call interrupted Natsuki's practice. Natsuki. Ichigo. He was beaten badly. Listening to Arasawa Tatsuki's flustered voice, Natsuki hung up the phone, his eyes flickering slightly. Natsuki, what happened to Longui calling? Rukia put down the juice in her hand, and asked curiously beside Natsuki. Recently, Rukia's life seemed extraordinarily comfortable. There is even a feeling that I am actually on vacation in this world. I have classes during the day, teach a few people in the afternoon, and spend the rest of the time cultivating the wounds of my soul. Shinigami's work is basically left to Kurosaki Ichigo. I have to say that this kid is really good at handling things, and he does a good job of purifying the void or soul burial. This makes the Soul Society. Rukia has worked hard for decades. Finally, in this world, I have experienced the joy of fishing. Looking at Rukia, who looked like a salted fish, the corner of Natsuki's mouth twitched, feeling that something was wrong. Ichigo was attacked by Shu when he visited his mother's grave today. I heard it was a bit difficult. That kid seems to be blown away. This. Rukia's expression was a little confused. Although it is a bit exaggerated to say this, the current strength of Kurosaki Ichigo has far surpassed most of the Shinigami. She can't imagine. What kind of hypocrisy can beat such Kurosaki Ichigo this time? Over there, I met a virtual who can pretend to be a human soul to hunt. It seems that this virtual is the murderer who killed Ichigo's mother. Look at Rukia's puzzled expression. Natsuki tells what he heard from Arasawa Tatsuki. But after hearing this information, Rukia's expression suddenly became serious, and she said in a low voice. The virtual that can mimic the appearance of a human soul to complete the hunt, couldn't it be Grandfisher, right? Chapter 22, Please teach Ichigo. Kurosaki Clinic. Yuzu and Shiarli looked worriedly at the big brother on the hospital bed. Although there was no injury on his body, for some reason he kept falling asleep like this. Sister Longui, what's wrong with brother Ichigo? Shiarli looked at Arasawa Tatsuki, who was guarding in front of the hospital bed. His usual calmness disappeared. Ichigo, he's fine, it's just that he didn't feel well today, so he slept more deeply. Arasawa Tatsuki looked at the two younger sisters. Smiling reluctantly to comfort them, could not bear to tell the truth. Shiarli, don't worry, Ichigo is just sleeping. Kurosaki Ishin's eyes flashed with distress. By the way, Yuzu, let's have porridge today. Ichigo must be very happy if he can drink your porridge when he wakes up. But as a father, he also has to appease his two younger daughters. Oni sauce. Tears welled up in Yuzu's eyes. Although she was only a primary school student, she couldn't tell that her father didn't want to worry about her. It's just. Looking at the unconscious big brother on the bed, her father was already very worried about big brother, and she didn't want her father to worry about her anymore, so she nodded and walked towards the kitchen. As for Shiarli, Sensible followed Yuzu out of the ward. But before leaving the ward, I couldn't help but look back at the big brother on the bed. It must be fine, brother Ichigo. Maybe it's the arrival of Natsuki. The world has a butterfly effect. Grandfisher. Before attacking the sisters, they were met by Kurosaki Ichigo, who was being distracted in the woods, and the battle was on the verge of breaking out. Pity. Kurosaki Ichigo is no match for Grandfisher. He was seriously injured in a few rounds. If his soul hadn't seen that the situation was not good and led others to run away, he would have almost hit GG, but even so, the injury to his soul was very serious. At the same time, Natsuki and Rukia, holding an umbrella, I rushed to the Kurosaki clinic. But they don't know that if you look at it from another angle, they are almost stuck together. Unfortunately, a figure wearing a bamboo hat leaning against the wall. He happened to take this scene into his eyes, and his eyes suddenly widened. Oops, I accidentally saw an incredible scene. Speaking of which, Rukia has indeed reached the age to talk about marriage. He is Ikuchiro Nishido, Rukia's senior. Specially came to this world to investigate the reason why Rukia did not return to Soul Society after the stipulated time. Before coming to this world, Ikuchiro Nishido thought of many reasons why Rukia did not return to Soul Society. But he didn't expect that he would see such a scene, a picture that might be wiped out by the Kuchiki clan. This scene is too shocking. It made Eiichiro Nishido not dare to make a simple judgment. After pondering for a moment, he felt that it was better to observe and observe more, and it would be safer to get accurate information and report it. Crack. The door to the Kurosaki clinic was pushed open. Natsuki signaled Rukia to go in first, and shook off the water droplets on the umbrella before entering the clinic. Uncle Ishin, how is Ichigo doing now? Entering the ward, the two saw Ichigo on the bed for the first time. Natsuki raised his eyebrows and asked Kurosaki Ishin. It's okay. Even if you say that, no one will believe it. It is rare for Kurosaki Ishin to put away his usual funny style, and his whole temperament has changed somewhat. At the same time, Kurosaki Ishin looking at this image. Rukia always feels very familiar, but I can't think of when I saw it. It's fine, but how are you, Uncle Yixin, are you okay? Natsuki nodded, but asked again inexplicably. This sentence asks. It made Arisawa Tatsuki and Rukia a little confused. Kurosaki Ishin clenched his hands, but quickly loosened them slowly, and said in a calm tone, Don't worry, I'm fine. Yes, there was suspicion in Natsuki's voice. But he quickly added a sentence to himself, I think, she doesn't want anything to happen to you either. She, Japanese, he, and she, are pronounced differently. Therefore, Arisawa Tatsuki and Rukia were even more confused. Especially Rukia, who arrogantly rolled his eyes at Natsuki, the Riddler is going to die. But the two women didn't notice, but Kurosaki Ishin's body trembled slightly. Yes, if it was her, she definitely didn't want anything to happen to me. At the same time, Kurosaki Ichigo on the hospital bed frowned. It was as if he had dreamed of something painful in his sleep. The next moment, Kurosaki Ichigo opened his eyes suddenly, and shouted in his mouth, No, don't go there. This cry attracted the attention of everyone in the ward. Unanimously looked at Kurosaki Ichigo on the hospital bed. As for Kurosaki Ichigo, who just woke up and was still a little confused, his expression gradually became dazed when he felt the eyes of everyone. Who I am? Where am I? What am I going to do again? But before he could react, Yuzu, who was supposed to be preparing food in the kitchen, had rushed into the ward and fell into Kurosaki Ichigo's arms, crying loudly. Certainly. Shiarli also rushed over, but she just stood aside and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. In this situation, Natsuki, Rukia, and Arisawa Tatsuki seemed a little embarrassed. But at this moment, Kurosaki Ishin, who finally breathed a sigh of relief seeing his son wake up, had a slight flicker in his eyes, thought of something, and secretly patted Natsuki on the shoulder. Uncle. Natsuki looked sideways, but Kurosaki Ishin made a hissing gesture. Immediately, he stretched out his finger to indicate to keep up with the outside of the ward, and then walked out of the ward on his own. Interesting. Natsuki raised his eyebrows. Did he have something to say to him? And he couldn't say it in front of everyone, which made him a little curious, so he simply followed him out. Clinic entrance. Kurosaki Ishin looked at the heavy rain outside. The demeanor of the whole person became a bit depressed. He took out a pack of cigarettes from his arms, lit them and put them in his mouth. Natsuki did not interrupt the atmosphere, but also looked at the heavy rain outside the clinic, quietly waiting for Kurosaki Ishin to speak. Quite a while. The cigarette in my mouth is half burned. Kurosaki Ishin seemed to be recalling something, and spoke slowly. Natsuki boy, you know what, my wife once said I looked handsome smoking a cigarette, but unfortunately, I'll never see her again. So, Natsuki believes that the other party is not just reminiscing about the past. Click. A bolt of lightning fell outside the house. A flash of lightning illuminates Kurosaki Ishin's face distorted by rage. Please teach Ichigo, let him gain the power of revenge, the power to avenge Masaki himself. Chapter 23, You can always trust Natsuki, I said. Kurosaki Ichigo woke up. The dark clouds in the sky gradually dispersed, and the rain stopped. Natsuki put away his umbrella and walked side by side with Rukia on the way back to the rented apartment. Uncle Kurosaki, I told you to go out just now. Rukia subconsciously approached Natsuki and asked curiously. The scene where the two went out just now. Although it was hidden, the ward was so big that she couldn't miss it. So, Rukia, haven't you noticed yet? Natsuki's mouth twitched slightly when Rukia simply asked why the two went out. He couldn't figure it out. Kurosaki Ishin is the captain of the former Juban team. At the same time, he is also the head of the Shiba branch house. Why can't Rukia recognize him? Could it be that since she killed Shiba Kyan, she automatically blocked all information about the Shiba family? What did you say, kid? Rukia Kuchiki didn't know what Chushashu was thinking. Just listening to the trick of the riddleman before, the sign hash was exposed on her forehead in an instant. It's nothing, it's just that Uncle Yixin asked us to help Ichigo. Natsuki still didn't give up, and specially mentioned the word, one heart, to stimulate Rukia. Pity. Perhaps life in this world is too leisurely. Rukia didn't think about the identity of Uncle Yixin at all. Instead, he nodded thoughtfully, and said seriously, that's right, facing the enemy who killed his mother, we should indeed provide some help to Ichigo. Oh, Natsuki sighed softly. Instead of continuing to struggle, he said seriously. Although I can help him kill the Chu-called Grandfisher, I think it would be better for Ichigo to solve the mother-killing enemy himself. Rukia was slightly taken aback. But Natsuki ignored it and continued. This time it's the enemy who killed my mother, I can help him kill. But what if the enemy threatens my sister's life next time, or the enemy who threatens the life of Uncle Yixin? I can't help all the time, can I? So you're going too. Rukia's eyes flickered slightly. She had roughly understood what Natsuki was trying to convey. That's right, in my opinion it's better to help Ichigo kill the enemy this time. It's better to give Ichigo special training so that he has the strength to protect his family. This is what I should do as an outsider. Looking at Natsuki who speaks righteously. This moment. Rukia suddenly felt that Natsuki was so handsome. It's not just the handsomeness at the level of appearance, but also the handsomeness caused by the self-confidence from the inside out. Do not know why. She was a little jealous of Ichigo. Something that belongs to him seems to be divided out. The feeling was so strong that she couldn't help but move closer to Natsuki herself. Natsuki. Rukia's eyes kept flickering. If I am in trouble, will you help me like this? At the same time, Rukia said silently in her heart. Natsuki, it should be fine, right? Single quote. Natsuki stopped, looked down at Rukia who was only as tall as his chest, stretched out his index finger and popped out another brain crash. It hurts. Rukia looked up dissatisfied. But at this moment, a confident voice sounded beside my ears. I can't promise you too much. But, you can always choose to trust Natsuki, I say. Rukia was silent, just 2 words, but set off a storm in her heart, and it took a long time before she said softly, then. Natsuki, pull the hook. Immediately. Before Natsuki could react, a little finger struck and quietly hooked his little finger. Rukia's little finger was cold, freezing, but somehow warm. Well, pull the hook. If you lie, you will swallow 1,000 silver needles. Rukia didn't know that at this moment her smile was extremely happy. Secretly, Akiro Nishido narrowed his eyes slightly. Click. I took pictures with the camera in my hand. Then, looking at the content in the camera, I couldn't help but sigh. Although I was prepared when I received the task, I didn't expect it to be so troublesome. In Soul Society, Shinigami have an affair with humans. But it is a more serious crime than passing on the power of Shinigami to humans. Night falls. According to a text message from Natsuki, Kurosaki Ichigo. Come to Karakura Town and stop in front of a waterfall in the back mountain forest. Ichigo, you're here. Natsuki, who came 1 step ahead, opened his eyes in the sword zen under the waterfall. The special training for you is very simple, fight to the death with me. In my opinion, only a desperate situation can maximize the potential of a person. Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes widened. Haven't figured out what a friend really means. The next moment, the long sword slashed sideways, leaving a bloodstain on Kurosaki Ichigo's body. Chapter 24. The special training is completed, and the dropped crescent sky chong. Hee. Shinigami Ichigo gasped. The sight is covered by blood, and the whole world is blood red. Natsuki is really merciless, but, the feeling is gradually coming. Far away, Natsuki maintains a human stance. In his hand, he holds the sealed state that only appeared in Shinigami mode. 30 seconds is up, the next wave of attack is about to launch, Ichigo. Swiping the blood on the blade, Natsuki reminded with a smile. Next moment, waiting for Ichigo to react. Then he stepped lightly and rushed out. Appearing in front of Kurosaki Ichigo almost instantly, a chill flashed across the blade in his hand. However, in the face of this attack, Kurosaki Ichigo blocked the sealed state in front of him ahead of time. Improved, but not enough. Natsuki's eyes lit up, his body twisted, and a side kick hit Ichigo's side. Ahem. The waist was suddenly hit hard. Although he didn't vomit blood, he couldn't stop coughing. But even so, he did not choose the hind legs, clenched the sealed state in both hands, and slammed Natsuki's forehead with the handle of the knife. Judging from the muscles that exploded in both arms, his attack this time showed no mercy. It's a pity that he didn't know his attack, and was so clumsy under the perception of mind-eyes. Natsuki leaned back and easily dodged the attack. Even while leaning back to dodge the attack, he also hooked his right foot and kicked Ichigo's face with dust. The sudden dust squinted Ichigo's eyes, causing a blinding effect, and he was honestly kicked in the front door. Hateful. The eyes are blinded by the dust. Ichigo wanted to rub his eyes, but Natsuki wouldn't give it a chance. A series of attacks came again. He could only squint his eyes, relying on the wind and instinct to guess the direction of the attack. Unknowingly, gradually he was able to defend against Natsuki's attack. Even, at the back, he could occasionally counterattack through the gap between Natsuki's attacks. After an hour, Natsuki stopped attacking and jumped back a few meters. The time is up, the 30-second rest time starts again. You can take this opportunity to wash your face. Although this special training is a battle to the death, but Natsuki can't really not give time to rest. If Ichigo is accidentally killed, it will be more harm than good, so every once in a while, he will give a 30-second break. At the same time, on a tree not far away, Kurosaki Ishin stood on the branch, worriedly watching his son being beaten by Fancy Hanging. However, seeing Ichigo being beaten from the beginning, and now being able to feel the trajectory of the attack and launch a counterattack, he suppressed the worries in his heart. Ichigo, don't blame me for being cruel. If you want to survive better in this world, strength is essential. But having said that, as a father, he felt the pain as if he saw his son being cut with scars on his body. But the only thing that made him feel lucky. My son is growing rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. It's getting brighter. One-sided slings have become both sides have to fight and defend. Under Natsuki's continuous feed, Kurosaki Ichigo began to fight more and more courageously. Even, he has a feeling that he can condense Reiatsu on the knife in his hand, and even release it. Subconsciously, comply with this inner feeling. Kurosaki Ichigo condenses Reiatsu towards the sealed state in his hand. At the same time, a name comes to mind. Subconsciously, Kurosaki Ichigo yelled, "Crescent, Tianchong." Moment. A half-moon-shaped slash flew out. Unlike Natsuki's sword glow, this is a pure Reiatsu slash. The half-moon-shaped blue slash slid across the soil under his feet, and flew towards Natsuki without stopping at all. Haha. Is it finally here? Looking at this scene, Natsuki's eyes sparkled with excitement. He has been looking forward to this move of Crescent Moon for a long time. This moment, he didn't hold anything back. The body moves forward slightly, the sealed state in the hand is quietly tucked at the waist. There is no trick name. Just a simple slash, and the blue light burst out. Woohoo! A faint blue arc-shaped blade light flew out. In just an instant, they collided with Yuya Tianchong. Boom! The earth trembled. The confrontation between the two seemed to be doomsday. A burst of violent energy spread to the surroundings. But the next moment, I saw the crescent sky chong flickering continuously, and then exploded suddenly. The icy Reiatsu washed around, the trees on both sides collapsed, and the dust filled everything, covering everything. Not good. Natsuki's expression changed. Just a few taps on the ground and dash in the direction of Kurosaki Ichigo. He was careless, forgetting that after such a long battle, Ichigo's spiritual power has been basically exhausted, and that crescent sky is completely a good-looking exhibe. However, when he rushed into that dust, suddenly, another wave of Reiatsu appeared here. Sure enough, even if you didn't say anything, did you still follow me secretly? One-hearted uncle. Natsuki slowed down and complained in his heart. After a while, smoke and dust gradually dissipated. The figure of Kurosaki Ishin appears in it. As for the guests of this special training, they lay quietly in their father's arms and slept soundly. Apparently, he was completely exhausted when he slashed the Crescent Sky Rush, and fell into a coma, without worrying about the consequences of failure in the slash duel. Uncle Isshin, the task is completed. Natsuki walked to Kurosaki Isshin's side. Teaching is hard work, Natsuki boy. Kurosaki Isshin hugged Ichigo and thanked him sincerely. Although Ichigo was beaten badly. But growth is the real deal here. That alone is enough for him to say a sincere thank you to Natsuki. I will help you train Ichigo, and you will guide me in swordsmanship. It was agreed at the beginning, and it is not hard work. Natsuki waved his hand. He is not stupid. Don't you sleep soundly at night. If Kurosaki Isshin hadn't offered to teach him swordsmanship, he probably wouldn't have helped. Ha ha ha, don't worry, I won't forget the good things I said, but wait until this weekend, okay? Kurosaki Isshin didn't care about Natsuki's tone. Even, in his opinion, this is just an excuse for young people. After all, Natsuki has been helping his son from the beginning, but he has seen it from the beginning to the end. It's fine on weekends, I'll find you then. Natsuki doesn't mind the delay, after all, what he wants most is already coming. Thinking like this, his gaze flicked to the ground. I saw a blue light group of skill attributes lying quietly on the ground. Chapter 25, Am I Too Strong to be Shikai? Looking at the back that is gradually going away. Natsuki narrowed his eyes slightly, and smiled softly. I would rather expose my identity and come to me than Urahara Kazuki for help. As expected, Uncle Yixin is a sensible person. Urahara Kazuki is a man who calculates too much. As long as you get to know him, you can't guarantee when you will be calculated by him and become a part of a certain plan. This feeling is particularly uncomfortable. Like Kurosaki Isshin, he knew that Urahara Kazuki was plotting against his son. And Urahara Kazuki also knew that Kurosaki Isshin knew he was plotting against his son, but even so he plotted against Kurosaki Ichigo. This kind of person knows that you are plotting against me. I feel helpless, and Kurosaki Isshin is probably dissatisfied. Otherwise, this time, they would not rather blow up their identity, but also ask Natsuki to train Ichigo. But compared to Urahara Kazuki, Natsuki is more concerned about the Crescent Sky Chong skill light group lying under his feet. With a wave, the light group automatically integrates into the body. Question mark. Ding. Detected host pickup skill Crescent Sky Chong. This skill is a special skill and will be automatically integrated into the skill Swordsmanship LV.5 15/25. Swordsmanship LV.6 0/30. Natsuki hasn't been idle all this time either. In the Kendo Club, the proficiency of Swordsmanship LV.5 has been raised to 15. I didn't expect to pick up the Crescent Sky Chong skill light group this time, which directly raised the level of swordsmanship to LV.6, which was a pleasant surprise. But even more surprising, the moment the sword skill was upgraded to LV.6. He clearly heard a call from deep inside. Call my name, let me fight with you. Sword Soul. A look of joy appeared on Natsuki's face. But the sound only sounded once, and then quietly disappeared. It's a pity, are you stuck at the name stage again? Natsuki's expression suddenly froze, and this state has lasted for a week. Every time Dao Zen can hear the voice of Dao Soul. But as soon as the name was spoken, the voice of the Sword Soul disappeared. Now another communication failure, even Natsuki can't help feeling frustrated. Perhaps, regarding Zanpakuto's Shikai, we need to ask seniors who have relevant experience. The image of Rukia came to mind. Natsuki is not a procrastinating character. He left the back mountain forest neatly and rushed towards his apartment. In an instant, the back mountain forest fell into silence again, only the surrounding environment that was messed up by the special training proved what happened here. Shikai. Rukia puts down the juice. Recalling the memories of the past, his expression was a little strange. I was recognized by Soda no Shirayuki only after passing the arduous special training of my seniors. But even that took years to complete. Shikai, you've only been a Shinigami for over a month, don't worry. But, Natsuki scratched his head in confusion, I can already hear the voice of Soul Saber. What? Rukia looked up sharply. Even because of being too excited, the juice in his hand was squeezed and exploded. I said that I could already hear the voice of Soul Blade, but every time he told me his name, the voice disappeared again, as if blocked by something. Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. Rukia stared blankly at Natsuki. She doesn't understand why a human being has such an exaggerated talent for the power of Shinigami. It's only been a month. Not only the spiritual power has the level of a vice-captain Shinigami, but the voice of the Sword Soul can already be heard. Monster, this is a monster through and through. Rukia, Rukia. Natsuki waved his hand back and forth in front of Rukia's eyes. Suddenly, Rukia looked up with a spoiled expression, and murmured. Natsuki, do you know that I have been training for many years to become a Shinigami? Even after becoming a Shinigami, I am still training myself, and I have mastered Shikai in just a few years. I haven't finished talking. There was anger on her face. But I never expected that I would meet a monster like you. In just 1 month, my strength has surpassed me who has practiced for many years. It's not fair, monster, you monster is dying, let me, Master Rukia, purify you. The voice fell. Rukia grabbed Natsuki's collar violently. As if he wanted to represent justice and destroy demons. Seeing that the other party was playing around, Natsuki smiled at the corner of his mouth, and simply cooperated, treating it as a touch of seasoning under the boring practice. What? I'm going to be purified by Lord Rukia. After all, he lay down on the ground and even stuck out his tongue to pretend to be dead. Wow ha ha ha. The righteous Master Rukia successfully wiped out the monster Natsuki. Seeing this, Rukia raised her hands and cheered, not feeling embarrassed at all. Certainly. Play is play, play is play. Rukia finally gave the answer. It's just this so-called answer that completely dumbfounded Natsuki. The reason why I can't Shikai is because my strength is too strong, so I usually rely too little on Zanpakuto. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 26. Guanyin Temple, the Outstanding Earthbound Spirit. 3 classes a year. All the students in the class noticed it. Something is wrong with Natsuki recently, or is he in a low mood? Rukia-chan, Natsuki, where is he recently? Keigo Asano leaned over and asked curiously. After getting along for a month, the classmates in the class knew that the relationship between the two was good, and they went to the kendo club together for social activities after school every day. It is often seen in school. The two go to school together every day, and go home together after social work. Gradually, no matter the class or the class outside, all the students thought that the relationship between the two was unusual. Natsuki, he's just a little hit, don't worry. Rukia smiled, and there was some schadenfreude in his voice. It's rare to see Natsuki deflated. This allowed Rukia, who had been hit all the time, to finally laugh for a while. Sure enough, the smile never disappears, right? It's just transferred from one person to another. Looking at Rukia's smile, Keigo Asano shivered suddenly, and quickly changed the subject. Speaking of which, tonight there will be a live broadcast tour of the Super Spirit Detective, Guanyin Temple, and the tour just happened to be in Karakura Town. Do you want to go together? After all, he folded his arms over the shoulder pads, wahahaha. Laughed out loud. Even after he made this signature move, many students started to imitate it. Immediately, the whole class was like, wow ha ha ha. Voices filled. Rukia-chan, haven't you watched the live broadcast of Guanyin Temple? Seeing Rukia's ignorant expression, Arisawa Tatsuki's eyes lit up, and he took out his phone and started Amway. 10 minutes later. Wahahaha. Natsuki looked at Rukia who kept screaming beside him. In an already depressed mood, now 10,000 muddy horses ran past my heart. Fortunately, when he was about to be surrounded by a group of sand sculpture classmates, an unlucky guy pushed open the classroom door and walked in fearlessly. Hey hey hey, what are you guys doing? Seeing all kinds of ghost screams in the classroom, Ichigo was stunned. He just recuperated at home for a few days and didn't come to school. Why did all his classmates turn into such ghosts? Coincidentally, because of the serious injury caused by the special training, the Kurosaki family put their minds on Ichigo. Recently, they are not in the mood to watch TV, which saved him from the pain of being tortured. It's nothing, everyone is just saying hello. Arisawa Tatsuki's voice sounded, and Ichigo looked subconsciously, but saw her hands crossed on her shoulders, wow ha ha ha. Laughed wildly. Kurosaki Ichigo. There is an illusion of doomsday. Help, my childhood sweetheart seems to be broken, what should he do? Jingle bell. The class bell rang suddenly. Saved Ichigo from embarrassment with his toes on the ground. But, seeing Keigo Asano who had already rang the class bell but was still rushing to the opposite class to say, wahahaha, Natsuki and Kurosaki Ichigo covered their faces with one hand. Anyone is fine, come and pull him down. Mr. Ochi, come quickly, don't let him be ashamed. Perhaps the prayers of the two of them had an effect. Ochi Miyuki suddenly appeared at the door of the class, and sneaked over with a brain crash. Keigo, I remembered telling you before, don't disturb the classroom discipline. Keigo Asano turned around blankly, looked at the homeroom teacher who appeared behind him at some point, swallowed hard, and said, yes, Mr. Ochi. Watching Inaochi Mayu appear, Natsuki and Ichigo finally breathed a sigh of relief as the classroom returned to its original state. Sure enough, there is still salvation in this world, not everyone is there as if poisoned, wow ha ha ha. Single quote. After school, Natsuki gives the kendo club a day off. No, to be precise, the kendo club gave him a day off. Recalling the scene where everyone in the kendo club asked him for leave together, he was speechless for a while. Everyone wants to come to watch the Guanyin temple exercising spirits, please be considerate, and proper relaxation will also help you master Shikai as soon as possible. Rukia's face is full of joy. Amway through Arisawa Tatsuki. She is quite interested in this guy called Guanyin Temple. Especially the signs, wow ha ha ha. The action is even more eye-catching. Without knowing it, I became a fan of the other party. Knowing that there will be a live broadcast of Guanyin Temple today, I took Natsuki with me. I've already been dragged to the scene by you, what else can I do? Natsuki smiled helplessly. Recently, Ben has a big head because he can't complete Shikai. Now being pulled over by Rukia again, listening to the endless stream of ho-ah-ha-ha-ha. He was so desperate. Oh, Natsuki couldn't help but let out a sigh. But at this moment, Jien heard the same sigh coming from beside him. Subconsciously, he turned around and looked over, only to see an orange head also turned around and looked over. For a moment, the two stared at each other. Natsuki, Ichigo. The two sides pointed at each other with surprise in their eyes. At school, the two made a bet that they would never come to watch the live broadcast, but they didn't expect. Well, I actually walked here by accident. Kurosaki Ichigo made up a reason with a forced smile. It turns out that you are too. I don't know what happened today, but I accidentally walked here too, he, Natsuki responded with a forced smile. However, just at this time, Kurosaki Shiarli and Rukia Kuchiki walked up to them at the same time. Brother Ichigo, sister Longui seems to be looking for you. Natsuki, let's go to the front to see the Kannon Temple. The two looked at each other. You can see the embarrassment in the eyes of the other party. I was dragged here by Rukia, can you believe it? What a coincidence, I was also dragged here by Longui. Rukia and Shiarli don't know what they are embarrassing about. They looked at each other suspiciously, and then they pulled each other and squeezed towards the front row. But at this moment, an inexplicable howl sounded. Ah! The four of them stopped and looked towards where the sound came from. Only to find a soul wrapped in chains suddenly appeared at the entrance of the hospital. This is, the earth-bound spirit, also known as the half-void. Rukia exclaimed subconsciously. Chapter 27, Frog Slashing, Dark Scarlet Eyes. Earthbound Spirit. It can also be called half-empty. Facing everyone's eyes, Rukia introduced the information about the earthbound spirit. However, Natsuki cares more about Shiarli next to Ichigo than the earthbound spirit. Doesn't anyone pay attention to such a big girl? Really. Either Ichigo or Rukia. Both of them are of the more nervous type. It is normal for the identity of Shinigami to be discovered in the plot. If no one finds out, there will be a problem. Don't worry, according to the condition of this earthbound spirit, as long as the hole in his chest is not stimulated, it will take at least half a year to transform into a void. Rukia looked at the earthbound spirit. Based on the appearance of the chain on his chest, he made a conclusion. However, as soon as her voice fell, Xiarli pointed to the door of the hospital and asked, "The so-called stimulation, does that count?" A few people looked subconsciously. But I saw Guanyin Temple standing in front of the earth-binding spirit provocatively. Suddenly, a grumpy expression visible to the naked eye appeared on the face of the earth-binding spirit. For this, Guanyin Temple pokes the stick into the empty hole of the earth-bound spirit to stir. While stirring, he said righteously, "Look, I will make you a Buddha right away, baby." Quote. The three looked at Rukia again. Natsuki even asked, "What if the virtual hole is stimulated? If you stimulate the void, you will fall into void in advance." The corner of Rukia's mouth twitched. She couldn't imagine that things would develop like this. Hey, isn't this very dangerous? Kurosaki Ichigo was dumbfounded. If this earthbound spirit degenerates into a void, all the people present will be in danger. I shouldn't have come. Looking at this inexplicable accident, even the normally calm Xiarli couldn't help but blush. The moment the words fell, the chains around the ground-binding spirit broke one after another. Oops, it's only one last step before that earthbound spirit becomes void. Rukia's expression gradually became serious. His gaze subconsciously flicked to Natsuki, as if asking how to solve this trouble. There is no other way but to purify him, just to help him directly become a Buddha. Ichigo sighed helplessly. However, seeing that the two ignored Xiarli beside him, talking about a series of related terms such as earth-bound spirit, emptiness, and purification, Natsuki kindly reminded. I said, "Are you too anxious?" Too anxious? What do you mean? The two looked at Natsuki in confusion. Seeing that the two hadn't reacted yet, Natsuki had no choice but to look aside at Kurosaki Xiarli, who felt something was wrong and was about to run away. Kurosaki Ichigo. Rukia Kuchiki. How embarrassing it was for the two to ignore Xiarli. Ahem, brother Ichigo, I'm going to find Dad and the others first. Seeing that she was found, Xiarli ran away. Only when leaving, she glared at Natsuki viciously, as if blaming him for being talkative. As everyone knows, her expression is not only not intimidating, but instead has a cute feeling. It's over, I didn't find Xiarli, and I said so much in front of her. Ichigo looked at his sister's back, wishing he could slap himself. What about protecting my sister? How about saying that you can bear everything by yourself? Natsuki, Rukia, that memory modification. Helpless, he had no choice but to ask the two for help, hoping to modify his sister's memory once. But half the story, but was interrupted suddenly by Natsuki. That ground-bound spirit can't last a few seconds, so it needs to be dealt with quickly. Everyone looked, but he saw that the ground-binding spirit kept struggling. It seemed that he was suffering some kind of unspeakable pain at this time. The next moment, a burst of golden light flashed, and the body of the earth-binding spirit exploded, creating a puff of smoke. Seeing this scene, Guanyin Temple celebrated. The evil spirit has been cured successfully. But he was handsome for no more than 10 seconds, and a heavy roar suddenly sounded. Ho 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 ho. Therefore, the celebration of Guanyin Temple was interrupted. He looked up in surprise, only to see a new monster was born on the roof of the abandoned hospital. That is, the eyes behind the sunglasses trembled slightly. Huge body, frog-like appearance, and milky white bone mask. However, feel the reiatsu of the frog. But Natsuki's eyes shine, its reiatsu is pretty good. Ichigo, I haven't shot it for a long time, let me give it to me this time. After all, no time for Ichigo to react at all. Pressing one hand on his chest, he turned into a Shinigami posture and rushed towards the roof of the building. Natsuki is very positive today. Rukia caught Natsuki's body and couldn't help complaining. Unlike the plot, Natsuki had no contact with Kanenji. After a few jumps, go straight up and find the newly transformed frog Shu. Hungry, I'm so hungry. As soon as he transformed into Shu, the frog Shu looked hungry, with saliva constantly overflowing from the corner of his mouth. See Natsuki attacking. Not only did he not dodge, but he rushed straight to him. PFF'd. A ball of green unknown liquid suddenly shot out from his mouth, attacking Natsuki. However, this speed was too slow in Natsuki's eyes. He dodged the attack by turning sideways, and even slashed with a backhand. PFF'd. A forearm flew out of nowhere. Green blood spilled from the wound and stained the ground. The LV.6 sword technique brought a 60% sharpness bonus, and Zanpakuto in Natsuki's hand easily chopped off the frog's forearm. At the same time, absorb skills to activate. The spiritual power consumed by going upstairs is instantly replenished. Ah, it hurts to death. Frogs are empty before they become empty, and their tolerance to pain is extremely low, rolling on the ground in pain. Natsuki's eyes flickered. He didn't intend to waste time, he stepped lightly. The figure appeared in front of Frog Shoe in an instant, and Zanpakuto in his hand chopped down, directly splitting Frog Shoe's bone mask and sending it to the Soul Society. Suddenly, drained, the skill was activated successfully. The spiritual power in the body directly increased by about 5% at one time. Feeling the changes in the spiritual power in his body, Natsuki felt that this trip was really worth it. However, what he didn't know was, in the dark, a pair of scarlet eyes slowly opened. This is the taste of Shinigami. Feeling Natsuki's reiatsu, the voice is full of surprises. I was escaped by that Shinigami kid last week, and a new Shinigami came this time. I'm so lucky. Chapter 28, Grandfisher strikes again. Natsuki prepares to go downstairs. But the much larger reiatsu suddenly appeared. This made him subconsciously turn around and look, his face suddenly changed slightly. What's the situation today? High-quality fakes appear one after another, which makes people feel a sense of surprise. See, a hairy, what looked like a mouse appeared behind him. Looking at the ghost, Natsuki recalled information about it. Grandfisher. Good at imitating tentacles into the appearance of human souls. Use this to lure humans with high spiritual power to take the bait and eat them all. Because of this fishing hunting method, in the archives of the Soul Society, there is also a title of fisherman. Grandfisher. Is also Kurosaki Ichigo's mother-killing enemy, who killed his mother 6 years ago. Natsuki was sizing up the enemy. Grandfisher was also looking at Natsuki, and suddenly laughed after a while. Hey, I thought there was only one Shinigami kid in this area, but I didn't expect there was another Shinigami, so lucky. Looking at the Grandfisher that suddenly appeared. That guy. Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes widened suddenly. Anger, shame, and rejoicing, 3 different emotions erupted in my mind. Rukia, I remember you also have pushing spirit gloves, please, let me enter the Shinigami state. Looking at Rukia, the voice was full of determination at this moment. The last time he was defeated and fled, he specially found Natsuki for a special training all night. Now that he met the enemy who killed his mother again, how could he just sit here and watch? The one who killed Ichigo's mother, Grandfisher. I understand. Feeling Ichigo's firm gaze, Rukia seemed to see the senior from decades ago. Not much to say. Silently took out the pushing gloves from his bosom. The next moment, Shinigami Ichigo broke away from his body and rushed to the hospital across the crowd. At the same time, the moment he rushed into the hospital. On the roof. The battle is on the verge of breaking out. Natsuki looked at Grandfisher and pulled out Zanpakuto. I didn't expect it to be that I ran into you first. How about this, I'll play with you first, and I'll hand you over to him when I come later. Play with me. Grandfisher, who was watching, was taken aback. It didn't expect this Shinigami to be so confident, and he boasted to play with himself, which made him laugh. You are really brazen, kid. The voice fell. Grandfisher's hair is constantly wriggling as if alive. Next moment, these hairs are like sharp swords. They all shot towards Natsuki in the distance, the speed was so fast that they left crackling sounds in the air. Pity. Under the blessing of mind-eyed skill. The perception became extremely sensitive, and Natsuki easily dodged the attack just by walking back and forth. He also launched a charge towards Grandfisher. Zanpakuto slashed a line of horses from the air, attacking from the bottom up. Ha, do you think I will fight you head on? Shinigami. But Grandfisher failed to attack, and quickly dodged with a few jumps. Compared with ordinary virtual, Grandfisher undoubtedly richer in combat experience. But, who said that was Natsuki's fastest speed just now? Interesting, the battle is getting more and more interesting. Natsuki raised his mouth, stomped his feet hard, and rushed forward quickly. The faint blue Reiatsu surged in the air, leaving an afterimage of a human figure, chasing after him. Impossible. Grant Fisher watching Natsuki attack in disbelief. Quick. Too fast. If Natsuki just showed a speed of 10. So, at this moment, the best speed he is showing now is 20, at least twice as fast. PFF'd. Natsuki appeared in front of Grant Fisher instantly. Before the opponent had time to react, Zanpakuto launched an attack with a thrust, stabbing at the bone mask trickily. Pity. At the moment Zanpakuto was about to be stabbed. Grant Fisher. Responding, he quickly dodged sideways. Zanpakuto barely brushed past the bone mask. This battle, if you look at the body shape, Grant Fisher is more beneficial. But Natsuki's swordsmanship and Zanpakuto are exceptionally sharp, which happens to completely restrain this clumsy figure. As a result, in successive attacks, Grant Fisher didn't get any advantage, not to mention, it was almost killed by a knife just now. Therefore, after realizing this, rustling, the black hair surged again. But this time the purpose is not to attack, but to force Natsuki back. It's a pity that even though it's too close to dodge, it doesn't mean Natsuki can't deal with those hairs. Ding, 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 the sound of iron tools intersecting keeps ringing. At this moment, Natsuki can block all the hairs that strike with just the Zanpakuto in his hand. Boom. However, at this moment, the iron gate to the roof was kicked open. This movement caused both sides to stop attacking at the same time, and looked over. Grant Fisher, this time, I must avenge my mother with my own hands. Kurosaki Ichigo walked out of it panting heavily. It is you. Runaway Shinigami kid. Grant Fisher, his eyes narrowed slightly. Unexpectedly, this Shinigami boy who escaped from his own life would come to him again without fear of death. Natsuki, leave it to me, please. Kurosaki Ichigo ignored Grant Fisher, talking to himself. He just looked at Natsuki, his eyes were filled with pleading, begging Natsuki to give up Grant Fisher to himself. Facing that look of anticipation, Natsuki didn't disappoint, and slowly backed away. A battle of revenge. Then show off the results of your one-night special training. Thank you big brother. Feng Luan 1000 VIP point reward, thank you big brother. Regarding the ending of Grant Fisher, the author thought for a long time, and felt that arranging revenge for Ichigo was the best way to deal with it. The revenge of killing the mother. Ichigo must report in person. Outsiders should not complete it in his place. At most, it is to give some external help, similar to special training. Of course, this is just a personal opinion. If you feel dissatisfied with this, please forgive me. Chapter 29. Sorry, no traffic here. The battle begins quickly. Kurosaki Ichigo pulled out the Zanpakuto behind him and rushed quickly. Hehe, you don't seem to have changed from a week ago. What gave you the courage to face me again? Grant Fisher. The eyes are shining. Seeing that Natsuki had indeed stepped aside, he looked at Kurosaki Ichigo who was rushing towards him. Courage. Of course it's for revenge. Ichigo, who was sprinting, gritted his teeth and roared. The next moment, he accelerated again violently, and Zanpakuto slashed at Grant Fisher. With a flash of cold light. It's useless, it's useless. Such a feeble attack, no matter how many times you attack, it will be useless. Grant Fisher, he didn't even dodge, just manipulated his own hair to block in front of him, and easily resisted Ichigo's slash. However, it didn't find it. A light blue luster quietly appeared on Zanpakuto's blade. Whether my attack is hard or not, you will know when you take the next one, Yuya, Tianchong. Danger. It hurts like a needle P*******K in my mind. Grant Fisher. The joke in the eyes disappeared. Although I don't know why, its killing instinct is crazily reminding the danger of this knife. PFF'd. The crescent sky rush released close to the body. Easily cut off all the hairs blocking the way, and cut forward with undiminished power. So close. Grant Fisher. Unable to dodge. Only by manipulating more hairs to block in front of him can he block the impact of Crescent Sky Chong. Damn it, what the hell has this brat gone through? Feeling like they were rivals, Grant Fisher cursed loudly. The Shinigami kid who was easily beaten a week ago. It's unbelievable that he broke through his own defense so easily. But it didn't notice it at all, and a dark figure quietly appeared beside it. Hey, are you just underestimating me like this, without putting up a defense? Kurosaki Ichigo sneered while carrying Zanpakuto on his shoulders. What? A voice suddenly rang in the ear. Make. Grandfisher. Pupil suddenly shrank. Subconsciously wanted to dodge, but it was too late. I saw a huge sword slashing towards me. PFF'd. A severed arm fell to the ground. Bright red blood gushes out from the wound. Ah, damn it, a mere Shinigami cut me. Question mark. Grandfisher. Screaming, looking at Ichigo with anger. Too slow, bug. Ichigo held Zanpakuto on his shoulders. Talking about Grandfisher's evaluation of himself a week ago. Shinigami brat. Question mark. Grandfisher. Become gnashing teeth. Don't talk to me there, go to hell. The tough hair shot out again. However, face the oncoming attack. Kurosaki Ichigo turned his head slightly to avoid it, and only a few orange hairs fell down. Regarding this, he turned back and mocked in a flat tone. The slow attack is not even half as good as Natsuki's. Damn it, it's just a Shinigami. Question mark. Grandfisher. Rushed towards Ichigo in a panic. Unexpectedly. Looking at the Grandfisher rushing towards me. Kurosaki Ichigo didn't even draw his sword, but just manipulated the spiritual power to condense towards his feet. Boom. Question mark. Grandfisher. The moment you get close. Ichigo's left foot made deep footprints on the concrete floor. Immediately, the power was transmitted from the left foot to the waist, then poured into the right leg, and finally gathered on the right foot. Side kick. A simple side kick, quickly and without sloppy kicking. Grandfisher. Boom. The huge body flew upside down in an instant. Cough. Big mouthfuls of blood fell from his mouth. With just one kick, Kurosaki Ichigo kicked Grandfisher, who slapped him a week ago, into a serious injury. Bang. 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 Question mark. Grandfisher. Falling from the sky. After falling on the ground, it bounced up 3 times in a row before landing firmly. No. Impossible. It is difficult to climb up with 3 legs together. Grandfisher's eyes are filled with fear. How many times have you launched an attack blindly without a plan? Kurosaki Ichigo asked at the same time as he walked forward step by step. This sentence. It was also what the other party said a week ago. But when it is used on Grandfisher, there is no surprise at all. I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die if I go on like this. Under a series of attacks, Grandfisher has lost its original arrogance. Watching Kurosaki Ichigo approaching step by step, its heart was also beating along with the pace, and its brain began to spin crazily. This boy's mother's soul breath still has the last trace left, and he can mimic him for the last time. When he is attracted by the mimic soul breath, he can escape quickly. Grandfisher has a lot of combat experience. It knows. Everyone has someone they can't beat. And the Shinigami kid in front of him, the one who can't attack, is his mother, and this is also its last escape route. Thinking of this, staring at Kurosaki Ichigo intently. It only has one chance, and there must be no mistakes in this chance. 5 meters, 4 meters, 3 meters. Question mark. Grandfisher. Swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. When the distance is only the last 2 meters, Grandfisher completes the mimicry in an instant. The tentacle changed into the appearance of Kurosaki Masaki. Seeing his mother up close, even Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Good chance. Question mark. Grandfisher. Turn around and run away without hesitation. In order to escape his life, he even cut off his own tentacles, just to attract Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes. However, it forgot. There is another person here. I saw that just as Grandfisher turned around and ran a few meters away, a ghostly figure quietly blocked in front of it. Sorry, no traffic is allowed here. Chapter 30, Revenge, the Gate of Hell reappears, attention Soul Society. Hateful. Get out of my way, the *********** D Shinigami. Question mark. Grandfisher. Looking at Natsuki in front of him angrily. In a panic, he consumed most of his Reiatsu to control the hair, turned into hard hair guns and attacked, trying to repel Natsuki. I told you, this road is forbidden. Natsuki didn't care about the incoming attack, he raised his knife to meet it. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of intersecting irons sounded again, but this time it was like a reminder, making Grandfisher tremble continuously. Get out of the way, get out of the way. Question mark. Grandfisher. Roaring. It senses the Reiatsu of the Shinigami imp approaching itself. If you don't repel the Shinigami in front of you, you may miss your last chance. What's the rush, anyway? Your death date is set for today, why don't you enjoy your last time, right, Ichigo? Looking at the violent Grandfisher, Natsuki smiled indifferently, and greeted Ichigo who was approaching gradually. Shinigami Kid? Question mark. Grandfisher. Looking back in horror. But I saw that Shinigami Kid walking towards me step by step. And with every step, the Reiatsu on his body swelled a little, and when it reached a few steps in front of it, the Reiatsu completely exploded and condensed towards the Zanpakuto in his hand. I said, today, I must personally avenge my mother. Ichigo stopped and looked at Grandfisher calmly. During the previous week of recovering from his injuries, he had fantasized about killing Grandfisher many times to avenge his mother. But when the moment comes, he found that his mood gradually became calmer. Maybe you don't want me to be immersed in revenge, mother. Crescent Sky Rushes. Half Moon Blue Slash. Slashed from Zanpakuto by Kurosaki Ichigo. Unlike the Exabe goods that had only appearance but no harm a week ago. This time it is the real Crescent Sky Rush. The Crescent Sky that condenses all of Kurosaki Ichigo Reiatsu. Expansion. The Crescent Sky began to expand continuously at the moment it was released. When it arrived in front of Grandfisher, Yuya Tianchong's size had expanded several times. No, it's impossible, just a Shinigami Kid. Grandfisher fell into madness. It doesn't understand. How did the Shinigami Kid, who was able to hang easily a week ago, become so strong? Pity. No matter how confused it is. The moment the huge crescent moon rushed towards the sky, its ending was already doomed. Just for a split second. Yuya seems to have crossed time and space every day and arrived in front of Grandfisher. Boom. With a loud bang, half-moon blue slashes cut across the body. In an instant. Question mark. Grandfisher. The huge body is split in two. Because the slash came so quickly, it couldn't even notice when it was injured. But when the body was divided into two, the sluggishness, unbelief, and fear of death occupied its thinking at this moment. 4. Why? Before consciousness fades. Question mark. Grandfisher. Seeing figures in a trance. All are the souls that have been swallowed by it in the way of fishing over the years. But at this moment, they all gathered around, crawling on Grandfisher, constantly tearing, devouring. Boom boom boom. The pitch-black Reiatsu keeps gathering in the air. The huge door slowly condensed out, and the two skeletons looked particularly eerie. Is this the gate of hell? This breath really makes people feel a little strange. This is the first time Natsuki has seen the gate of hell. Ichigo tackles the bat with imaginary time. Natsuki is in the sword zen of the kendo department, perfectly missing the appearance of the gate of hell. Now, Grandfisher fell into hell, which made him finally see the gate of hell. Full of pressure. It's not what you can feel from watching it on TV. Puff, puff. Two gigantic blades protrude from the gates of hell. After penetrating the Grandfisher body divided into two halves, it slowly withdraws towards the door. Kurosaki Ichigo stared at this scene, not knowing what he was thinking, but Natsuki's eyes lit up, and saw a blue skill light cluster falling to the ground. Abandoned hospital entrance. The gates of hell. Rukia murmured, looking at the gates of hell. Even a Shinigami like her rarely sees the gates of hell appear. Unexpectedly, in this small Karakura town, the gates of hell appeared twice within a month, which is really a bit surprising. In the woods behind, Urahara Kazuki also looked up at the sky, but he had a headache. Ichigo has the ability to kill Grandfisher alone. It seems that his strength needs to be redefined. Ah, what a trouble. Soul Society. Technology Development Bureau. Looking at the constantly beating values on the display, there was a trace of doubt on the face of a creature whose appearance surpassed that of a human. Reiatsu at the vice captain level appear one after another in this world. The gates of hell appearing twice in 1 month, this value is a bit abnormal. Karakura Town. Let's report it. Check out our playlist for more amazing novels. Chapter 31, Soul Fragments, Kurosaki Masaki's Resurrection Plan. Grandfisher is dead. Even in the end, he was dragged into hell by the gate of hell. Natsuki thought, Ichigo has now completed revenge for his mother, and then he can go back and continue to communicate with Zanpakuto. But Kurosaki father and son bowing in front of them. Natsuki was full of doubts and couldn't help but look at Urahara Kazuki aside. Grandfisher is going to hell, what else do you want from me? Shua. Urahara Kazuki opened the small folding fan, smiled and said. About this matter, let's see if I can help you or not. Talking. He clapped his hands. Tessai Tsukubishi walked out carrying a transparent coffin. The figure of Kurosaki Masaki lay quietly in it, as peaceful as if asleep. It was really dangerous back then. If I hadn't happened to see it, this soul fragment would have completely dissipated. Urahara Kazuki walked to the coffin. In order to save her, I took out an out-of-print item, a coffin with a time-stopping effect. Could it be that you think? A crazy idea popped into Natsuki's mind. Ahahaha, this is what Kurosaki and his sons think. Urahara Kazuki laughed. And put everything on the Kurosaki father and son, showing an appearance that has nothing to do with him. As everyone knows, this appearance is rather indifferent. But looking at the two people who bowed and begged in front of them, Natsuki said helplessly. Not to mention that your ideas are unrealistic, this is just a glimpse of Reiatsu's illusion, can you really revive Masaki Aunt? Okay. Hearing Natsuki ask, Kurosaki Isshin prepared in advance Kaido immediately. This tentacle has a special structure, and it will intercept a fragment of the soul swallowed by Grandfisher which can be used to mimic again in the future. Is there a soul fragment of Masaki Aunt? Natsuki understood the thoughts expressed by Kurosaki Isshin. At the same time, it can be regarded as knowing the reason why Kurosaki and his son bowed to themselves. If there is a chance to revive the wife-mother, let alone Bo, I am afraid that they will kneel down, neither of them will hesitate. What can I do, or, what do I need to do? After confirming the purpose of the two, Natsuki began to think about what he could do with his abilities. This kind of secret thing asked me to help, it must be because I have the ability to help Kurosaki Masaki resurrect. There are only a few abilities he has mastered. Fencing. The swordsmanship of the two is stronger than him. Draw. Yes, it can only be this ability. You want me to absorb Masaki Aunt's spiritual power. Natsuki looked at the two, but quickly refuted his guess. No, this may destroy the last soul fragment. Speaking of which, he remembered the reasons he made up before. I can analyze and integrate other people's Reiatsu, so I wondered. So, you want me to analyze Masaki Aunt's spiritual power and inject it into her body? Seeing the reason why Natsuki came to him for help in just a few seconds, Kurosaki and his son's eyes lit up, as if they saw hope. That's right. Masaki's soul fragments can be extracted. Kurosaki Isshin revealed the situation and explained why he asked Natsuki for help. But it's just a soul fragment, and it cannot be revived unless it is restored to a complete soul state. Urahara Kazuki interrupted at this point. Fanning the small folding fan, he said in a tone that he couldn't help himself. Masaki-san's soul fragments are too weak. Now I can only extract the soul fragments, which cannot be repaired. So the only way at present is to extract the soul fragments. Let you analyze and transform Masaki-san's spiritual power, and finally inject a large amount of spiritual power from the same source into the soul fragments, and repair them bit by bit. Quote. Heard that? Natsuki frowned. He glanced at Urahara Kazuki who was smiling beside him. Can't do it. How is this possible? Anyone who has watched the 1000-year bloody battle knows this guy's healing ability. Kanonbaraki Benihime Aratame. Reconstructs and transforms anything touched by Zanpakuto within range of the attack. It can be said that as long as Urahara Kazuki is willing, he can easily extract the soul fragments and restore them at the same time. He found this excuse. Don't want to help, or can't help. But since he took the initiative to help keep Kurosaki Masaki's soul fragments, the first option should be ruled out, leaving him unable to help. Why can't you help? Single quote. Don't you want to expose your comprehension ability? Single quote. At this moment, Natsuki guessed in his mind why Urahara Kazuki was unwilling to help. Suddenly, Urahara Kazuki felt a chill. It was as if someone had seen through his thoughts, but he immediately smiled conceitedly. How could it be possible? Quite a while. Natsuki looked back at the Kurosaki father and son. I'm not sure if your method is correct, but I can still help you. Moment. Kurosaki father and son burst into tears. Natsuki kid. Natsuki, you be asterisk 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 D. The two had thousands of words to express their gratitude, but they couldn't say it for a long time because of their excitement. For this, Natsuki chuckled twice. Turning to Urahara Kazuki, he asked, I can shoot at any time, when are you going to start? Urahara Kazuki was taken aback, then smiled and said, oh, of course, the sooner the better. Chapter 32, Shikai, the origin of void being devoured. Ichigo. Kurosaki Masaki looked at Ichigo. I can't believe my son has grown so big in the blink of an eye. Mother, it's me. Ichigo stretched out his hands tremblingly, wanting to throw himself into his mother's arms, but he was afraid it was just a dream. Looking at this scene, Kurosaki Masaki smiled, very broadly. Holding Ichigo in his arms, he laughed at the same time. Ichigo is grown up now. I don't like my mother like before, my mother is so sad. Listening to the gentle voice that has appeared again and again in my dreams over the years. Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't bear it anymore, hugged Kurosaki Masaki tightly, and vented his longing for these years with tears. Outside the room, Kurosaki Isshin watched the scene. The corners of this tenacious man's eyes were slightly red. Congratulations to Uncle Yixin, after so many years of separation, the family is finally reunited. Natsuki congratulated from the side. Congratulations. Kurosaki Isshin couldn't help it either. Rushing into the room, screaming, squeezed his son away and threw himself into his wife's arms. Looking at the chaotic but warm scene in the room, Natsuki smiled and turned to leave. Next, he just needs to quietly wait for the reward to come to his door. This time, the resurrection plan went very well. In just 1 week, Kurosaki Masaki woke up. But because of being swallowed by Grandfisher, Kurosaki Masaki only has memories of 6 years ago, but even so, Kurosaki father and son are still crying like a child. In the end it was Kurosaki Masaki. One on the left, one on the right, it took a long time to calm them down. When Ichigo and Kurosaki Masaki recovered and were about to thank Natsuki, they found that the other party had already left. But mother and son don't know. Natsuki agrees to help out thanks to Kurosaki Isshin. Recalling the remuneration negotiated by the two, Kurosaki Isshin thought a little puzzled. Although I don't know how this kid knows, it's not a loss to exchange the Quincy handbook for Masaki's resurrection. At the same time, in the back mountain forest of Karakura Town, Natsuki meditates cross-legged, trying to get inside. This time to help Kurosaki Masaki revive, except for Kurosaki Isshin's promised letter from the destroyer. He also gained some benefits from Kurosaki Masaki, such as the power of the Quincy Master and the remaining power of the Void Origin in her body. Of course, more importantly, he got the opportunity to enter the inner world in one fell swoop. Different from the high-rise buildings in Kurosaki Ichigo, here is a relic of the battlefield. The setting sun hangs in the air, and countless dilapidated blades are quietly inserted on the ground. Is this my inner world? Why does it feel like a battle madness, isn't it me? While Natsuki complained about his inner world, he kept looking around, looking for the soul of the sword. A moment later, found the target on a mountain top. It's finally here, Natsuki. Soul Blade turned around slowly. She is very tall. A head taller than Natsuki at 1.85 meters. Dressed in smart blue and white chivalrous costumes, with the same slender zanpakuto hanging from his waist. Wearing a blue veil, it is impossible for people to see his face clearly, except for a pair of soul-stealing blue eyes. This moment, her eyes were fixed on Natsuki. The corners of the mouth are raised lightly, revealing an insolent yet elegant smile. It's so boring to be here alone. I want to feel the trembling breath, draw the warm blood, and taste the pleasure of death. Call my name. Let me enjoy the baptism of blood with you, Natsuki. This moment, a name popped into Natsuki's mind. This feeling is very wonderful, as if the name already exists in the mind, and it will naturally emerge when you think about it. Then, to that expectant gaze, Natsuki clasped one hand and chanted. Let's enjoy the baptism of blood together, Yuli. The moment the sound fell, a handful of Zanpakuto appeared in Natsuki's hand. Compared with the original appearance, the changes after Shikai are extremely obvious. The overall length is 145 centimeters, the length of the knife is 130 centimeters, the width of the blade is 3.6 centimeters, the length of the handle is 15 centimeters, there is no hand guard, the blade is black and straight without a trace of curvature, and there is a purple tassel on the end. Compared to ordinary Zanpakuto, Yuri will undoubtedly grow a little, but considering Natsuki's 185 height, it's just enough. A moment later, converged Shikai's excitement. Where did it go? Natsuki became concerned about his harvest. Hear the inquiry. Yuri jumped down in front of Natsuki, licked her lips, and said. The monster that broke into this realm. It wanted to fight me for sovereignty, so I just ate it all. The voice fell. Natsuki's expectant gaze froze suddenly. Unexpectedly, she said, I ate them all. Natsuki is numb. What she ate was not a monster, but the emptiness he absorbed from Kurosaki Masaki's body. The void in Kurosaki Masaki's body. Although it was transferred into Ichigo's body due to production. But as a corroded mother body, her soul still has the most original virtual power. This resurrection Kurosaki Masaki. Natsuki discovered the residual power of Void White. Taking the opportunity to absorb it into his own body, trying to cultivate a void of his own. I didn't think so. Cultivation is over before it begins. After a long silence, Natsuki forced a smile and encouraged. You did a good job. Yuli smiled more clearly, telling the good news. After I ate the monster, I gained its ability at the same time. After all, with one hand in front of you. The bone mask appears and Yuri's Reiatsu becomes confused. Zanpakuto, Shinigami, Void, the three breaths are constantly mixed. Seeing this scene, Natsuki was taken aback for a moment. He didn't expect Yuri to gain the ability of Hollow after eating the original power of Zushiro. But at this moment, Yuli suddenly gave him a surprise. Natsuki, as long as you want, you can draw the virtual power from me at any time. Chapter 33. A moment in the movie theater. Natsuki opened his eyes. Looking at Zanpakuto at his waist, he smiled. Shikai and Hollow successfully mastered. After mastering the solution, you will officially reach the captain level. Now Natsuki, the stability of spiritual power is at the upper level of the vice captain. With Shikai and Hollow, you can even squeeze into the captain class. But in terms of combat ability, it is still far from the real captain level, at least he hasn't mastered the standard solution. But in the future, whether it is the Battle of Karakura Town or not, or the Millennium Bloody Battle, the degree of danger is dozens of times more serious than the current small fights. To know, even Mr. Yamamoto was killed by the plot. This makes Natsuki always have a sense of crisis, urging him to become stronger quickly. He has been so busy helping out this week that he doesn't even have time to practice. He has to rush back and continue to practice, so he can complete the solution as soon as possible. Back to the apartment. As soon as I opened the door, I heard the sound of the TV. With nothing to do recently, Rukia has become obsessed with binge-watching dramas to pass the time. Entering the living room, I saw her sitting cross-legged on a soft cushion, watching TV intently. I am back, Natsuki called out to Rukia. Hearing the sound, Rukia realized that Natsuki was going home, and then she didn't know what to think, and looked over with bright eyes. Natsuki, you're back just in time. Battle Chabi seems to be premiering in some cinema, take me there to see it. Natsuki wanted to say that he would continue to practice. But seeing the expectant eyes, he agreed by accident. Then let's go together. Great. Rukia immediately cheered. At this moment, she didn't have the sense of stability when she first came to this world. In other words, here, beside Natsuki, she doesn't need to pretend to be deep and indifferent, it's her original nature now. Looking at this scene, Natsuki, who was anxious to become stronger, was slightly taken aback. Suddenly realized that I seem to have neglected Rukia recently. When was the last time I saw her cheerful? And at this moment, Rukia, a newcomer who went to the cinema for the first time, prepared in a hurry, while tidying up, asked Natsuki. Let me bring a telescope, I heard that the cinema is huge. Natsuki, I heard that you can eat snacks in movie theaters, should we take some snacks out? Natsuki, Natsuki, Natsuki. Question after question, which seemed ridiculous in Natsuki's eyes, came out of Rukia's mouth. Although these questions made him dumbfounded. But looking at the excited eyes, he patiently answered one question after another. When everything was ready, Rukia hung a lot of equipment, a notebook, she wanted to record the picture, and a camera, she wanted to take pictures. Correct. And the snacks she misses so much. Although Natsuki doesn't understand. Why bring a laptop when you already have a camera? But when the two sat together under the big screen, Natsuki suddenly felt that it would be nice to come to the cinema to watch a movie once in a while. Just a little bit of a headache. Just a few minutes after he sat down, he felt a strong drowsiness hit him. Rukia rolled his eyes from the corner of the eye. Seeing that she was completely immersed in the movie, she lay down on the backrest with peace of mind. Not long after, the snoring sounded. But Natsuki doesn't know. In fact, she has been paying attention to herself. Longwi's method really works. I hope you can sleep well, Natsuki. The corner of Rukia's mouth lightly twitched. Why didn't she find anything unusual? I don't know why, but self-knowledge offers little help. The only thing we can do is to keep Natsuki from worrying about himself, but seeing that he is addicted to cultivation, he still can't help but ask his friends for help. From the present point of view, she enlisted the help of a friend and apparently found the right one. But, just when Rukia chuckled, the boy next to her suddenly murmured, "Rukia, come here and let Xiaoyi shang. Immediately, Rukia's face turned red, thinking that Natsuki was still awake, and quickly looked, but saw that Natsuki was still sleeping soundly. Natsuki, you be *********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** counted meatballs on both sides of her cheeks angrily. Suddenly. Seems like a good way to get revenge. You have to pay for fooling me, Natsuki. Rukia took out an oil-based pen from her bag, leaned over to draw. After a while, looking at Natsuki with a curly beard drawn on the corner of her mouth and a B***************** D on her forehead, she suddenly smiled. Smile very happily. Like an innocent, ordinary girl. Sure enough, staying with you is the easiest. Don't worry about being in danger, because Natsuki will protect yourself. Don't suppress your own character, because Natsuki will tolerate yourself like this. Just be as bold as in your dreams. Then I can enjoy the feeling of being with you unscrupulously. Inside a dim movie theater. Rukia approached Natsuki slowly. It's like a jelly, soft and slippery, you can't help but sink into it, and your soul will melt. The brain stops thinking. There is only one thought left, so soft. Get out of the cinema. Natsuki stretched contentedly. Then he smiled at Rukia, who followed silently. Today's movie was really comfortable to sleep in. From the beginning to the end, it was perfect. It's really good. Yet face Natsuki's smile. Rukia's eyes flickered slightly, and she involuntarily dodged them. Suddenly, the corner of Natsuki's mouth twitched. No matter how you look at it, it looks like after doing something bad. Children who are afraid of being discovered by their parents behave right. Rukia, did you do something bad? Natsuki asked directly. No. Ahahaha, how could I do something bad? Rukia answered quickly, but when her gaze fell to Natsuki, she couldn't help rolling her throat up and down. Meeting Rukia's gaze. In addition, after leaving the movie theater, I was cast by others from time to time. Natsuki suddenly realized something, and hurried to the bathroom at the entrance of the cinema. After a while, there was a wailing sound. Rukia, you use an oil-based pen. Hearing the wailing, Rukia stuck out her tongue playfully, but Natsuki couldn't see it. Chapter 34, The Faulty Messenger, Ishida Ryu appears. 3 classes a year. The students in the class found something was wrong. When he came back from a week off, Natsuki's state changed again, returning to the normal state a month ago. Watch Keigo Asano enter the classroom. He also warmly greeted him, and once again issued an invitation to the kendo club. Hey, Keigo, I haven't seen you for a week. You haven't changed at all. What, have you decided to join the kendo club? This greeting. It was silly to ask Keigo Asano, who just entered the class. Natsuki. Ha ha ha, Kendo department or something. It's not like you don't know me, so don't make fun of me. Keigo Asano looked at Natsuki unexpectedly. But when he heard that he had joined the kendo club, he waved his hands quickly. He didn't understand, with so many people in the class, why they always asked him to join the kendo club. Could it be? Is he really a swordsmanship genius? Hey. Thinking of this possibility, Keigo Asano smiled extraordinarily. But before the smile lasted for a few seconds, a hand knife struck from behind and hit him on the head. Keigo ********* D. Stuck at the door and don't go in, what are you thinking? I saw Arasawa Tatsuki and Inoue Orihime standing at the door of the class, blocked by Keigo Asano. Ahahaha, sorry. If someone else. Keigo Asano might be tough. But Arasawa Tatsuki thinks it's better to forget it. The iron fist taste is not good, so he honestly came to his seat and sat down. At the same time, two girls entered the classroom. But I saw a familiar figure saying hello. Longui, good morning Orihime. Natsuki greeted the two. Ah, yes, it's classmate Natsuki. Have you taken care of your family affairs? Inoue Orihime is as natural as ever. Even after 2 months of acquaintance, I still couldn't help being nervous when I saw Natsuki. Don't worry, everything is taken care of. Natsuki nodded. He has a good sense of Inoue Orihime, and he usually has a lot of contacts. You're back, Ichigo must be coming soon, right? Arasawa Tatsuki was not so restrained, and asked carelessly. The two are childhood sweethearts. They also formed a virtual hunting team together. Longui was naturally worried about Ichigo and Natsuki's sudden leave for so long. But it's all right now. Natsuki who took leave together has come back to class, and Ichigo must be back soon. That Ichigo kid should be back soon. Natsuki smiled jokingly. At the same time, his eyes indirectly saw Inoue Orihime beside him, but he saw her staring directly at him. Okay. Illusion. I always feel that the way I look at myself is not right. But before he could seriously think about it, Rukia, who was sitting in front of him, suddenly wrinkled his expression and turned to look at Natsuki. Natsuki, here we come. With scruples Inoue Orihime by my side. Rukia didn't say so, but both Natsuki and Arasawa Tatsuki understood what she meant. I'll go, Ichigo is not here, I'm bored to death, just let me stretch my muscles. Defeated Inoue Orihime. Arasawa Tatsuki bluntly said that she will take the shot this time. Since studying with Rukia, the spiritual power in her body has also entered a period of rapid growth. Plus good karate strength. Now has the strength comparable to the low-ranking Shinigami officers. It is not easy to deal with these miscellaneous fish that appear in Karakura Town. Therefore, Rukia is also very relieved to hand over Shu to Arasawa Tatsuki to solve it, please. In that case, I'm counting on you, Longui. Don't worry, I can still come back before class if I go now. Longui walked towards the door and waved his back to a few people. Upon seeing this, Rukia and Natsuki didn't care either. Chatting with the classmates in the class again, but surprisingly. Arasawa Tatsuki hurried back after going out for 10 minutes, and found the two suspiciously. I just arrived near the target. The target display on the messenger machine suddenly disappeared. Is there something wrong with this phone? She handed the phone to the two of them. This phone was purchased by Rukia at the Urahara store especially for her. It can detect the position of Shu around it, and she uses this function to find Shu and complete the kill. This time there was an accident. When she arrived at the location marked on the phone. But he didn't find the corresponding Shu, instead he saw a chubby soul hiding in the corner and shivering. There are indeed orders. Rukia didn't quite know what the situation was. Looking at this familiar scene, Natsuki suddenly remembered Ishida Ryu, the last member of the protagonist group, and this should be his masterpiece. But think of the plot. Ichigo, who was teased several times in succession, said softly. It may indeed be that there is something wrong with the messenger machine. Let's rest today and see the situation tomorrow. That's the only way to go first. Rukia and Arasawa Tatsuki exchanged glances. The two had no other choice, so they had to follow Natsuki's method for the time being. Ishida Ryu, who had just entered the classroom, was stunned. What the hell, shouldn't it be tried a few more times, and it doesn't matter. Chapter 35, False Bait. Hope to bring more surprises. Karakura Daiichi High School. Because I know Ishida Yuryu's coquettish operation. Natsuki didn't care about it at all, and let the telegram beep every day. 3 days later. In the case of another trial unsuccessful. Ishida Ryu couldn't hold back at all. How could there be such a Shinigami? If he didn't go, he really didn't go once. Immediately. On the way to the club in the afternoon. Ishida Ryu suddenly appeared and stopped Natsuki and Rukia. Natsuki, Rukia, both of you are Shinigami, why don't you go and eliminate Hollow? Why are you not nervous at all? This is not your duty. Ishida Ryu questioned the two of them. He doesn't understand, isn't Shinigami's duty to destroy Hollow? Why can I sit in the classroom with peace of mind after receiving the instructions that appear in the virtual world? It's only been 3 days. Ishida Ryu who couldn't help jumping out. Natsuki tilted his head strangely, and asked him instead. Is there anything wrong with raising our hands when someone helps us with our work? Hear the conversation between the two. Now Rukia has reacted. It wasn't that the telegram machine was malfunctioning, but that the boy in front of him went to eliminate Shu after the telegram machine issued the command. That's why. When Long Gui went to eliminate Shu, he was in vain. But what made her curious was, how did Natsuki know that this boy would do this? But the next moment, Ishida Ryu asked her out of doubts for her. You, Natsuki, how do you know me? I never showed my ability in school. Heard that, Natsuki chuckled. Looking at Ishida Ryu, he asked back. You don't think I haven't found you, do you? As a classmate, I have long discovered the spiritual power in you that is different from ordinary people. Ishida Ryu was taken aback. But Natsuki didn't finish his sentence, a wicked smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. But let me realize that this matter is related to you, it's all because you are too flamboyant. Don't you say that your clothes are uniforms issued by the school. Show bag. Look at the wicked smile on the corner of Natsuki's mouth. Ishida Ryu gritted his teeth, pointed at his clothes, and shouted loudly. I'm not a coward. This uniform is the symbol of our Quincy clan. Ishida Ryu hates all Shinigami. In his opinion, when Shinigami came to support his grandfather, he would not die. Now the Shinigami whom he loathes, humiliating himself as a symbol of the Quincy clan, how can he bear it? B******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** you, my dignity as a Quincy master. So, Natsuki interrupted him suddenly. If you're looking for me just for such a trivial matter, I'm sorry, I don't have time to mess around with you. Yes, in Natsuki's eyes this is just nonsense. It's too sloppy to tell who is stronger, Quincy or Shinigami, just by killing the virtual. Not to mention, in his memory, this meaningless competition almost went wrong. There are a huge number of miscellaneous fish, but they threaten the lives of the entire Karakura Town residents, that is, there are no dead people in the anime. But now this is the real world. Who can guarantee that no one will be killed because of a competition this time? However, Natsuki doesn't know. Ishida Ryu was stimulated by his playful words. Crunch, crunch. Ishida Ryu clenched his hands tightly. His eyes fixed on Natsuki, his heart was filled with unprecedented anger. Just kidding. You actually took the fight between the Quincy and the Shinigami as a joke. HMPH, then just stand aside and watch. The voice fell. He took out a false bait from his pocket and crushed it directly. Immediately, the crushed virtual bait emitted a special wave, which spread into the air. Hey, you really can't stand stimulation. Natsuki frowned slightly. He thought he refused to fight. Things just don't go the way they did in the plot. Unexpectedly, this kid couldn't stand the stimulation. The virtual bait was crushed at the slightest disagreement. Virtual bait. Rukia's face changed when she saw the waves spreading in the air. Of course she knows what virtual bait is. It's just that Ishida Ryu didn't expect that Ishida Ryu had this thing, and he was still using it on the spot under the stimulation. Natsuki, find a way to stop the spread of fluctuations. Rukia shouted anxiously to Natsuki. In her opinion, if Natsuki's special ability is used, the effect of virtual bait may be erased. Pity. Ishida Ryu suddenly sneered. It's useless. Once this virtual bait is used, it can't be stopped. You can watch me kill Shu next. The voice fell. He turned his head and left directly, preparing to find a place with a clear view. Quincy is mostly a long-range shooter, and he is no exception. Only when the line of sight is open can he fully display his strength. B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************Watching Ryu turn and leave, Rukia was speechless. It's a sickness to endanger the entire Karakura Town for a boring competition. Have no choice. She just looked at Natsuki. Feeling Rukia's gaze, Natsuki smiled. Don't worry, since I'm here, I definitely won't sit idly by. Just right, it can increase my spiritual power. The previous sentence. It was addressed to Rukia. The latter sentence is what Natsuki said to himself. To be honest, this competition is actually full of benefits for him. After all, with the drain skill, he can permanently gain part of the spiritual power by killing a void. I didn't agree at first. I just don't want to involve too many irrelevant people. But now that things have happened, all he can do is try his best to solve all the problems in front of him. By the way, enhance your own spiritual power. At this moment, Natsuki couldn't help showing a greedy smile. Virtual bait, I hope it can bring me some surprises. Check out our playlist for more amazing novels. Chapter 36, 3 Battlefields, The Torn Sky. Karakura Town. A black hole appeared in the sky. Strange-looking ghosts emerged from it. But without exception, each Shu just got out of the black hole and was killed by the incoming arrows. 1, 2, 3, 11. Ishida Ryu put down the spirit bow in his hand. Looking at the gradually increasing number of black holes, he subconsciously frowned, feeling ominous. Can virtual bait attract so many virtuals? As the dispenser of false bait, it can be said that he knows the attraction of that virtual bait best. If calculated according to the number of ghosts, it can attract about 100 ghosts. Worth to talk about. This is an ongoing process, which will probably be completed in 1 to 2 hours. But now, in the past 10 minutes, the number of Shu he has eliminated has reached 11. The number of its eradication. It is obviously different from the effect produced by his virtual bait. But before he can continue to think, there are more and more black holes in the sky, and the number of virtual beings attracted is also increasing. Hateful. Ishida Ryu raised his spirit bow again. Attack the attracted ghosts in the air. At the same time, the appearance of Natsuki and the so-called playful remark appeared in his mind again. This moment, Ishida Yuryu's fighting spirit was inspired again. I absolutely deny that Quincy is worse than Shinigami. And at this moment, Natsuki and Rukia split into 2 groups. The former kills the Shu who is attracted by the virtual bait, and the latter contacts the Kurosaki house and the Urahara store for reinforcements. Rustling. Natsuki's figure flickered in the air. Every time it appears, it means that a void has been purified by him. Ding. Kill the target. Use the drain skill to permanently gain part of the target's spiritual power. The system began to refresh the screen continuously. As Natsuki's spiritual power rises to the upper level of the vice captain. Now every time a miscellaneous fish is killed, it can only increase his spiritual power by 1% or even lower. Compared with the beginning, the ratio has dropped a lot. But looking at the miscellaneous fishes all over the sky, Natsuki thinks that even if it is a hard pile this time, he can raise his spiritual power to a new height. Thinking like this, he slowly retracted the knife into its sheath. Reiatsu poured into the scabbard. At the same time, staring at the midair, the next moment, Yuli came out of the sheath. I saw a faint blue arc-shaped sword glow flashing in midair. In an instant, dozens of ghosts were sent over. He was cut into 2 quarters instantly by this blue sword glow. It is different from the previous way of cutting out the sword with the method of cutting technique plus Reiatsu. With this knife, Natsuki integrated the cohesion effect of Crescent Sky Chong, and condensed his own Reiatsu at the tip of the knife. It makes the blade glow even sharper. Immediately, Natsuki sensed another wave of false breath. Without hesitation, he rushed away immediately. Karakura Town Commercial Street. Those with high spiritual power noticed the vision in the sky one after another. The only difference is that due to the different spiritual powers of individuals, the pictures they see are clear or not. Hey hey hey, what the hell are those in the sky? Hey, can't you see these monsters? Run away. Some high spiritual powers, curious about what this is, try to get in touch. But there were also some people who sensed that something was wrong, and called the invisible ordinary people around them to start hiding. Suddenly, my head. The first person to try to make contact with Shu. The head was grabbed by Shu, and it was slowly sent to the mouth, puff. But in the eyes of ordinary people, this person's head seems to be caught by something, and his whole body rises out of thin air. But the next moment, there was a bang in the head, and it exploded instantly. The exploding blood and brains were stained in midair, reflecting the phantom of a monster. Suddenly, what? Regardless of those with high spiritual power who can see the void. Ordinary people with low spiritual power and unable to see the void. Knowing that there was a monster attack, they all screamed and fled around. For a while, the commercial street is in chaos. Traffic jams, stampede accidents, and some people even took advantage of the chaos to rob. And the most important thing is that natural disasters and man-made disasters collide and inevitably produce some deaths. However, just when the situation is about to get out of control, a figure stepped out from the crowd, instantly attracting everyone's attention. I'm in a hurry, you all go up together. The man said coldly, carrying a giant sword. At the same time, with the appearance of this figure, the sweet smell of Shinigami diffuses out, tantalizing every taste bud. There was no discussion, but all Shu rushed over at the same time, intending to swallow the sweet-smelling Shinigami into his stomach. But the next moment, all the Shu who surrounded him were dealt with one by one. The entire Karakura Town. Unknowingly, 3 battlefields were divided. Natsuki, Ishida Ryu, and Kurosaki Ichigo are each in charge of a battlefield. Said it was a battlefield. In fact, it was because of too many virtual kills. The effect of attracting Shu is stronger than that of bait. Shu only gathers towards these 3 battlefields. Certainly, there are also scattered voids that attack humans. But most of these are solved by the people of Urahara Store. Or the victim, being stimulated, awakens his ability on the spot and resolves the attack. Like Sato Yasutora, or Inoue Orihime. Just like in the original book, under Shu's attack, the 2 awakened their own abilities. At the same time, as time passed, the sky gradually became dark. But as if the final boss was about to come, Shu, who was attracted to him, stopped his movements in unison. God, the sky is broken. The bait can't attract this level of vanity. Natsuki, Kurosaki Ichigo, and Ishida Ryu looked at the sky together. Kurosaki Ichigo and Ishida Ryu suddenly trembled until their pupils shrank, and looked at the sky in disbelief. See, a hole opened in the sky. Gray-white hands poked out from the hole, and with force, the sky was torn apart. A pointed-nosed bony mask. From the torn sky, slowly poke your head out. Reiatsu, who was so terrifying that he was short of breath, swept across the entire Karakura Town in an instant. Chapter 37. Manos Grande arrives, attention Soul Society. Boom. The terrifying Reiatsu swept across the entire Karakura Town in an instant. Natsuki, Ishida Ryu, Kurosaki Ichigo, Rukia Kuchiki, etc., all clearly felt the majestic Reiatsu. Chaos, disorder. This is the most impressive. But Ishida Ryu and Rukia looked dull, completely dumbfounded. Others don't know, but they both know it. What appeared this time was not an ordinary giant void, but the culmination of all ordinary imaginary evolutions, Manos Grande Jillian. The huge body, the pitch-black robe, and the mask with a pointed nose on his face all showed his special identity. But, how could it be here? How could such a mere virtual bait attract such an existence? The 2 of them suddenly felt a layer of cold sweat on their backs, and realized that something was wrong. They rushed towards Natsuki quickly. As for Kurosaki Ichigo, solve the virtual queen in the area you were responsible for. Run all the way to the direction where Jillian appears in the sky. Coincidentally, the location where Jillian landed happened to be in the area that Natsuki was in charge of. And at this moment, Soul Society, Technology Development Agency. Looking at the display screen covered by red dots, Ah Jin was stunned. Hey Hey, what's going on? Could it be that Hueco Mundo has started to attack the world? Every red dot on the screen represents an empty breath. But now, there are hundreds of red dots flashing on the entire screen. Doesn't it mean that there are hundreds of ghosts appearing in this area of the world? More importantly, a black spot of light suddenly appeared on the screen. According to the settings of the Technology Development Bureau, only Manos Grande and above will be displayed with black dots. Big event. Something big has definitely happened in this world. Before he had time to think, Agent quickly contacted the chief of the bureau, Kuritsuchi Mayuri. After a while, Kuritsuchi Mayuri ordered the information to be reported. Therefore, a captain's meeting is held. There were only a few captains who received the order to attend the meeting. Sui Feng, Ichimaru Jin, Byakuya Kuchiki, and Jashiro Yukitaki. At the same time, Abarai Renji, who is in the 6th team, heard a rumor in the team, saying that Hueco Mundo started to attack the world. The location of the attack is the area called Karakura Town. Rukia. Abarai Renji's eyes widened in disbelief. He is very clear that the location where Rukia is stationed in this world is the area called Karakura Town. Fortunately, just when he was in a hurry, an emergency support document was sent to him. Although he didn't quite understand why the number 6 squad, which was the leader of the nobles, was going to carry out support missions, it didn't prevent him from finally breathing a sigh of relief. At the same time, Ichigo and Ishida Ryu arrive on the scene. What's the matter with this guy, such a huge body? Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Jillian in the sky. It was the first time he had seen such a large void since becoming a Shinigami. Ishida Ryu. With a trembling right hand, he pushed his glasses. Temporarily forgetting the question of the position between the two, he replied. This guy is Manos Grande, formed by the fusion of many voids. Damn it, I've only heard from the master about such a level of shu, but I didn't expect to lure it out. At this time, listening to Ishida Yuryu's explanation, only then did Kurosaki Ichigo realize who he was, and looked dissatisfied. Hey, I heard from Rukia that you seem to be the one who caused this situation. Really, don't just cause trouble for others. When saying this, he wanted to reprimand Ishida Ryu. But seeing the other party's hand that was bleeding from the continuous drawing of the bow, his tone subconsciously weakened a bit. And at this moment, Natsuki looked at Jillian in the air curiously. Feeling the terrifying and chaotic reiatsu of the opponent, he had a feeling that if he could kill this guy, maybe he can touch the threshold of the captain level. If it is more powerful, it is not impossible to enter the captain's level by relying on spiritual power alone. Thinking of this, he was completely interested in. Holding the Zanpakuto scabbard at his waist with his left hand, he smiled lightly. Ichigo, Ishida-san, those around you will trouble you. This sentence stunned the two of them. But at the next moment, they saw a huge column of spiritual light bursting from Natsuki's body soaring into the sky, which made the two of them realize something. Really, the limelight has been robbed again. Kurosaki Ichigo smiled, carried Zanpakuto on his shoulders, and rushed into the empty group. HMPH, I'm not helping you, I just don't want those ghosts to attack others. Ishida Ryu opened his spiritual bow. He explained while killing the attacking hollow. At the same time, Urahara Kazuki and Rukia rushed over. The former led a team to help eliminate Zhao Yushu, while the latter saw that Natsuki seemed to be about to make a move, so he quickly dissuaded him. Natsuki, don't be impulsive. This guy is Manos Grande, normal Shinigami can't hurt him at all. Chapter 38. Let's enjoy the baptism of blood together, Yuli. To be frank, Rukia has been a Shinigami for so many years. This is the first time I have seen Jillian up close, and I have only seen him in school textbooks before. But that didn't stop her from knowing Jillian's terror. So when she saw that Natsuki was about to make a move, she stepped forward to stop it. Natsuki, don't be impulsive. This guy is Manos Grande, normal Shinigami can't hurt him at all. Listen to Rukia's worries. Natsuki turned his head to look, and chuckled. Rukia, you seem to be a little too worried about me. It wasn't like this before. Heard that? Rukia cast an annoyed glance. Can this be the same? In the past, all you faced were miscellaneous fish with low strength. But it's different now. This is Manos Grande Jillian. It's written in the book that only royal agents have the power to deal with this kind of power. You just rush up like this, what if something happens to you? Rukia worried about Natsuki. Unconsciously, I want to say, what to do if I get hurt. But as soon as the words came out of his mouth, he suddenly felt that it was inappropriate to speak like this, and hurriedly changed it to, what if something goes wrong? Not forgetting to sneak a look at Natsuki. I'm afraid Natsuki just heard the difference. But to her surprise, Natsuki smiled again, very heartily. Rukia, who is not injured in battle. Rukia blushed. Unexpectedly, the original idea was heard. Meanwhile, Natsuki continued to laugh, but this time the laughter was unbelievable. If you are facing the void, but you don't even have the courage to make a move, so what is it called Shinigami? ... Rukia opened her mouth. At this moment, I can't even refute it. Finally, looking at the confident smile, he just lowered his head and muttered, forget it, no matter what you think, I will always stand by your side. Heard the words. Natsuki smiled even more. He reached out and stroked Rukia's smooth hair. Ah, then it's done, stay by my side, watch me, how to kill this shoe. After all, ignore Rukia's flushed face. Turning to look at the sky again, that Jillian has completely walked out of the black cavity, and its huge body is full of power. It is different from the performance of high-level miscellaneous fish in anime. This Jillian is covered in uncomfortably black Reiatsu. With its appearance, the sky seemed to be a little darker, and the majestic Reiatsu crushed countless ordinary souls in Karakura Town. Yeah, is this just the aura of Manos Grande? It really feels somewhat different. The moment the voice fell, the smile on Natsuki's face disappeared, and he slowly held Zanpakuto at his waist. Immediately, a terrifying Reiatsu spilled out, even comparable to that Jillian. This is impossible. Rukia saw this scene. Ignoring the embarrassment just now, his pupils suddenly widened. An idea that she couldn't imagine suddenly appeared in her mind. At the same time, those who saw this scene, Rukia is not alone. On Urahara Kazuki's calm face, a trace of surprise suddenly appeared, and he opened the small folding fan to cover his chin. Aiya. Brother Natsuki has mastered the liberation so quickly, it's a bit unexpected. Originally in his expectation, at least until the Soul Society comes, Natsuki will be able to grasp the liberation. But he didn't expect that he had quietly mastered the liberation without anyone knowing. But compared to two people in the know, Kurosaki Ichigo and Ishida Ryu are a little unclear. From their point of view, Natsuki was simply releasing his own power, without thinking about the liberation of Zanpakuto at all. And at this moment, seeing Jillian walking towards him, Natsuki simply drew his sword out of its sheath, pointed it at Jillian, and said word by word. Let's enjoy the baptism of blood together, Yuli. The moment the sound fell, the appearance of Zanpakuto in the hand has changed. At the same time, this is also the first time Natsuki has shown his liberation outside. The narrow, straight, black blade without a trace of curvature shows the ultimate lethality. The length of 145 centimeters is enough to cut through all defenses, but the purple tassel on the tail endows this long knife with a sense of mystery. But what is even more surprising is that, just after liberation, a phantom appeared beside Natsuki. This is a mysterious woman who is wearing a blue and white strange dress, but taller than Natsuki, who is 185 by a head. At the same time, the waist is exactly the same as Natsuki's Zanpakuto. Reveal her true identity, that is, Natsuki Zanpakuto. The moment it appears, a faint blue Reiatsu connects Natsuki and Yuri. Fight with me. Follow your orders, my lord Natsuki. As the voice fell, the Reiatsu of the two swelled again, and the figures disappeared from the spot in an instant. Missing. Kurosaki Ichigo exclaimed. No, it's too fast, beyond the scope of the naked eye, so you can't see it. Ishida Ryu, who didn't know when, came together. Pushed the glasses on the bridge of the nose and gave the correct answer. But in fact, there were huge waves in his heart, because the steps of Natsuki and the sword spirit when they disappeared were particularly familiar to him. Cheap feet. This is impossible, it is clearly the steps of the Quincy Master. At the same time, is it cheap? Also seeing this is Urahara Kazuki. After all, it was the Urahara store where Natsuki and Kurosaki Ishin made their deal in the first place. But the only thing that made him curious was, in just 3 days, how many Quincy abilities did Natsuki learn? Chapter 39, Soul Break, Abarai Renji who came to support. Now, the figures of Natsuki and Yuli flickered continuously. The speed was so fast that the naked eye couldn't tell. Jillian was touched in front of him before he even noticed the existence of the two of them. But just as they were about to strike. But Jillian seemed to notice something, slowly raised his right foot, and kicked forward. Slow for Jillian's size. But for one person and one soul whose size is hundreds of times smaller than it is extremely fast, and even just aware of the opponent's intention, the attack has already struck. Yuli, Natsuki called out. The two have the same mind, and he expresses his own thoughts in one sentence. I see, Natsuki. Yuri nodded, speeding up, passing directly through Jillian's body. Next moment, Yubu. The two said silently in their hearts. Immediately, Natsuki's figure appeared beside Yuli. This is Yuri's Shikai ability, which condenses a Sword Soul Phantom to strengthen Natsuki's combat ability. Phantom has no substance, unable to be affected by any outside world. But the Zanpakuto in her hand can deal damage to the enemy. Yubu is the basic skill in Shikai state, which can make Natsuki flicker to Yuli's side, and vice versa, Yuri can also flicker to Natsuki's side. At the same time, with Rukia and Urahara Kazuki explaining, Kurosaki Ichigo also learned that Zanpakuto was liberated, and looked at Natsuki and Yuri enviously. The moment the position changes. Yu Mingshin. Natsuki tapped his feet and quickly rushed to the sky. The spiritual power on Yuli's body was automatically transmitted to him, increasing the speed by about 50%. This is the rush skill in the Shikai state. Use Yuli's spiritual power to strengthen yourself and enhance your speed. In addition, there are many matching chopping techniques, but they are more suitable for fighting human enemies. Next moment, Natsuki appeared in midair, level with Jillian's bone mask, looking at each other. Ji Li was silent for a moment, his brain seemed to be thinking, and then, his head was slightly raised, and the huge Reiatsu condensed in his mouth. Suddenly, a group of black and red spiritual light balls took shape. The aura of destruction vented out in this ball of spiritual light. Far ground. Sero. Rukia's eyes widened in shock, and she asked in surprise, is that guy going to use Sero to attack Natsuki? What is Sero? Curious, Ichigo asked directly. Sero, that's an advanced attack skill mastered by Manos Grande. To put it simply, it is to hit the spirit particle at a high altitude to form a ray flash, which has super destructive power. Urahara Kazuki heard the question. So I simply helped to answer it, and finally specially reminded. If this Sero's attack target is Karakura Town, it can instantly destroy half of Karakura Town. What? Destroy half of Karakura Town? Kurosaki Ichigo was stunned. He didn't expect Sero to be so powerful. He just wanted to use a knife to chop it. As for Ishida Ryu, what Natsuki said to him came to mind again. He clenched his fists uncontrollably, but looking at Jillian's condensed Sero, he couldn't let go, and muttered regretfully. Nonsense, yes, my actions were indeed nonsense. To cause so much trouble in Karakura Town because of a conflict of emotions, Rukia is on the sidelines. He sighed softly, shook his head, and said nothing. And at this moment, watch as Sero coalesces into shape. The corner of Natsuki's mouth raised a maniacal laugh. Sero. There is nothing to be afraid of. Yuli, use that trick, just try it, its power in this world. No problem, Natsuki. Yuri's figure appeared. The spiritual power covered the opponent's body again, and the consciousness link was successful. The voice fell. One person, one soul, one front and one behind, standing in midair. But Yuli's phantom kept getting bigger at this moment, and it became twice its original size in just an instant. At the same time, one person and one gang slowly put Zanpakuto in the scabbard. The movements are completely synchronized, as if the same person is operating. The faint blue Reiatsu also shrank into the scabbard, emitting a violent chi-chi sound. Next moment, one person, one soul instantly draws the sword. The faint blue light leaves an afterimage in the air. Two Zanpakuto slashed out in a huge gesture. Use Soul Cut. X2. cut off two Zanpakuto at the same time. The violent wind pressure condensed in the gap between the two knives, absorbing the overflowing spiritual seeds from all around. But the real attack, but it is the edge formed after the spiritual power is extremely compressed. 2x2. The condensed Sero splits into 3 in an instant. The attack didn't stop for a moment, Zanpakuto went straight to Jillian's head. The wound is as smooth as a mirror. The head was divided into 3 parts, and it hit the ground to stir up a cloud of dust. The 2 sword glows broke away from Zanpakuto, and flew parallel to the distance. The wind pressure blew across the ground, but left a cobweb-shaped crack. The power of Yuhun Duan Slash can be seen from this Madara. At the same time, a quaint door in the air appeared out of nowhere and opened slowly. Several hell butterflies flew out of it, and then a man with red hair walked out of it. Is this the present world? Sure enough, as in the report, there are fake Reiatsu everywhere. Feeling the breath of Reiatsu spread in Karakura Town, Aburai Renji frowned, worried about his friend's safety. Sudden, there was a tingle between his brows. As if a crisis was approaching, he subconsciously turned his head to look. This is. Aburai Renji's eyes widened suddenly. I saw one up and one down, 2 dark blue saber lights, one big and one small, came towards me. Chapter 40. Long time no see, Aburai Renji is here. What's the situation? Look at the incoming sword light. Renji hastily blocked Zanpakuto in front of him. Ding, these 2 dark blue sword glows are on Zanpakuto, forcing him back continuously. However, seeing that he was about to be pushed into the boundary crossing gate, a cold voice suddenly sounded behind him, "Get out of the way." Hearing this sentence, Aburai Renji, who was struggling to resist, did not hesitate, and immediately dodged to the side. Without the sword light to resist. Go straight to the world transmitting gate behind you. But at the moment when these 2 blade lights were about to hit the piercing gate, a slender figure stepped out of it. The white captain's Haori, the star leading pliers symbolizing nobility, and the neckerchief named, silver and white wind flower yarn. All show the identity of the visitor. Soul Society, Gote 13th Division, 6th Division Captain Byakuya Kuchiki. Facing the sudden attack of the sword glow, he opened his hand without changing his face, aiming at the sword glow. 39 of Bakudo round gate fan. Instantly, a circular spirit shield, appearing in front of him, resisting the sudden attack of the sword glow. But something unexpected happened suddenly. After the 2 blade lights collided with the protective shield was instantly covered with cracks. This is. Feel the Reiatsu contained in the sword light. A surprise appeared on Byakuya Kuchiki's calm and stern face. The power of Shinigami. There is pure Shinigami power in these 2 blade lights. It can even be said that this is a purer Shinigami power than many Shinigami in Soul Society. But don't wait for him to continue feeling. The shield began to creak. Byakuya Kuchiki looked at the 2 blades again, touched his waist with one hand, and Zanpakuto unsheathed it. Cut. The moment the protective shield shattered, his Zanpakuto slashed straight ahead, toward the sword glow. Ding ding ding. The sound of iron tools intersecting continued to be heard. This sword glow confronts Byakuya Kuchiki. It's a pity that the sword glow is powerless after all, and as time goes by, the Reiatsu in the sword glow is gradually exhausted. Not even Byakuya Kuchiki pushes hard. It only takes a few seconds for these 2 sword glows to shatter, turning into spirit particles and dissipating in the air. And at this moment, Natsuki falling slowly from the sky. Listening to the system prompt, a satisfied smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Ding. Kill the target Jillian. Drain skills and use them to permanently gain part of the spiritual power of the target. Instantly, the Reiatsu inside him started to skyrocket. Originally, Reiatsu was at the upper level of the vice captain. After an afternoon of hunting, he can break through to the captain level with a single kick. The Reiatsu obtained from Jillian finally helped him break through and successfully entered the captain rank. But when he hit the ground, his eyes suddenly widened. I saw a blue attribute light group falling on the ground. Through the attribute light group, Natsuki can vaguely see the 4 words Battle Instinct. Battle Instinct. Although I don't know the effect of the skill light group. But this does not prevent the joy of acquiring a new skill. Raise your hand a little, and this group of attribute light will automatically fly into Natsuki's body. Suddenly, the system beep sounded again. Question mark. Ding. Question mark. Host pickup skill, Battle Instinct. It is detected that this skill has a high degree of compatibility with Mind-Eye, and it will be automatically fused into a new skill, Battle Intuition, which will be displayed in the skill list. Merged into a new skill. Natsuki was puzzled by the effect of the new skill, and said silently in his heart. System, query the current attribute value. Natsuki. Question mark. SX, male. Race, human. Basic attributes, strength 43, speed 51, physical strength 41, wisdom 40. Skill 1, swordsmanship LV.6 21/30. Skill 2, absorb LV.3 11/15. Skill 3, battle instinct LV.1 0/5. Skill effect 1, greatly enhance perception and scope. Skill effect 2, actively used in battle, it can accurately perceive the target's flaws, and has a 10% chance to predict the target's next attack. Natsuki feels the newly fused skills. Skill effect 1 is the same as before, mainly skill effect 2. There is a 10% chance of predicting the target's next attack. Although the chance is a bit low, in actual combat, it may produce unexpected effects. At the same time, see Natsuki fall to the ground. Rukia, Kurosaki Ichigo and others gathered around. You kid actually hides so deeply. Looking at Zanpakuto with Natsuki's waist in a sealed state, the former joked. She can't forget. A week ago Natsuki couldn't see Shikai's disappointed look. Natsuki, teach me how to Shikai if you have time, those moves just now are so cool. Ichigo also came over. He really wants to master Shikai. If you can change your ridiculously big Zanpakuto. It will be much more convenient when fighting in the future, right? Ichigo thought in his heart. Hearing what the two said, Natsuki shook his head, and said in a deep voice. There's no rush to celebrate, and don't forget, Karakura Town has other things to wrap up. Heard that, the two were stunned for a moment. Karakura Town was hit today. If one is not careful, there may be a big problem. Fortunately, Urahara Kazuki spoke at this moment. I saw him fanning the small folding fan, and said with a confident smile. Everyone, please rest assured, I have already inspected the entire Karakura Town before, and the follow-up issues will be dealt with accordingly, so don't worry. Hear this. Several people finally settled down. But because the sky was completely dark, everyone separated after a few pleasantries. On the way back to the apartment, Natsuki and Ruki walked side by side. But when passing by a street, the latter's eyes suddenly lit up. Natsuki. The first time we met, it seems to be here. Heard that, Natsuki stopped. After a while, he pointed to an alley and said with emotion. I met you here at the time. I didn't expect it to be so long. It's so fast. But the moment the voice fell, as if feeling something in his heart, Natsuki looked up into the air. I saw a figure squatting on the top of the telegraph pole, and suddenly said to himself. Time really flies. Before you know it, you've been away from Soul Society for 2 or 3 months, Rukia, long time no see. Under the moonlight, the red hair of the visitor was particularly conspicuous. Immediately, Rukia's pupils shrank suddenly, and she said in incredible shock, Renji. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.